Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on the newest WildTrax updates. Before we begin, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. The ABMI respectfully acknowledges that our work takes place on the territories of Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, and the Métis homeland, traditional and ancestral lands of First Nations and Métis peoples, whose histories, languages, and cultures are directly linked to the biodiversity that we monitor. We acknowledge the traditional teachings of the lands that we work on, and that reciprocal, meaningful, and respectful relationships with Indigenous peoples make our work possible. We are deeply grateful for their stewardship of these lands, and we are committed to supporting Indigenous-led monitoring programs while learning Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing. And now a bit about our presenter today, Alex MacPhail. Alex MacPhail has 15 years of experience in wildlife ecology with a focus on terrestrial birds. He's currently director of Sensor, a unit of biodiversity pathways that specializes in managing large-scale national data sets and translating insights from environmental sensors and biological data into actionable outcomes. His experience lies in harnessing software tools and data management solutions to help support species conservation. Alex has helped oversee operations and development of WildTrax since its creation. All right, take it away, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Really excited to have you all here to talk a little bit more about the latest developments that have been happening in the WildTrax platform. Before we get started, I'll just again mention that if there is any questions, I'll take them at the end of the presentation. We'll do a presentation followed by a little bit of a live demo of the WildTrax 2.0 site today. And yeah, happy to answer any of those at the end of the presentation. Je donnerai aussi ma présentation en anglais et en français. Et donc, je suis ravi de vous présenter toutes les dernières avancées dans la plateforme de WildTrax. S'il y a des questions après la présentation, je serai ravi de les prendre. Et s'il vous plaît, n'hésitez pas à demander des questions en français si vous voulez. So to kind of kick things off, a little bit of context here, we're all very aware that environmental sensors are now ubiquitous from forests to cities, enabling unprecedented monitoring and study of bird populations and animal populations across the country. But this wealth of data really only becomes valuable when we can create systems and workflows that efficiently manage, process, and share these large data sets. Of course, equally important is the metadata harmonization that comes with all of these big data, and ensuring that the collected information is standardized and comparable helps to provide that solid foundation for informed ecological and conservation decisions. But of course, technology isn't alone. The way we adapt our workflows, share knowledge, and protect data is just as critical. Et donc, en s'adaptant aux évolutions des méthodes de travail, pour garantir le succès à long terme, il faut faire sûr que la flexibilité, le partage des connaissances et la sécurité des données sont clés pour effectivement bâtir des réseaux solides et collaboratifs. Et donc, WildTrax prend en charge ces aspects techniques, vous permettant de vous concentrer sur l'essentiel et devenir ainsi bien plus qu'un outil, mais une communauté qui rend ce travail possible. And so WildTrax is really meant to be the place where you can, not worry about any of your technical burdens around environmental sensor data, allowing you to concentrate on the essential, which is helping to answer these scientific questions. And so WildTrax is really becoming more than a tool, but a community that helps to make this possible. And so with users and organizations now from around the world, WildTrax is helping to fuel hundreds of projects that generate invaluable insights into animal populations. And the sheer volume of recording and images that you can see here shows like the incredible scale of collaboration, but more importantly, it highlights how this collective effort is helping to drive real conservation impact. Et donc, WildTrax 2.0 représente une étape majeure dans l'évolution de notre plateforme avec des outils améliorés, une gestion de données optimisée et des fonctionnalités renforcées pour soutenir la conservation des animaux à des différentes échelles. And so, our goal here is clear that, we want to try to make the system as collaborative and as easy as use as possible so that, we can maximize the environmental sensor data that we are collecting to make these workflows simple, quick, and efficient. Et donc, toutes ces améliorations reposent sur une infrastructure solide, pensée pour la fiabilité et la performance à long terme. Here, our new infrastructure in the back end follows what is called a 3-2-1 data storage strategy to help to maximize the security of the data. We now have a new data infrastructure hosted at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, partnered with the ECCC. The two types of media that are used with at least one copy offsite helps to keep critical environmental data safe, but also readily accessible. And then a lot of these system upgrades that we have recently made helps to make processing faster so that your tag clips, AI results, weather results are available quickly. And of course, controlling who can access that data is just as important as protecting it. Et donc, le contrôle d'accès basé sur les rôles permet de définir précisément qui peut consulter ou modifier les données dans WildTrax, que ce soit au niveau de l'organisation ou des projets qu'on verra. En fait, vous pouvez également gérer la visibilité et le tamponnage de vos sites pour protéger les informations sensibles. Et donc, pour renforcer la confidentialité, WildTrax propose le floutage automatique des personnes présentes sur des photos et peut aussi contrôler leur visibilité. Et enfin, les différents statuts du projet peuvent être aussi attribués, ce qui facilite l'organisation et la coordination encore dans un contexte collaboratif dans WildTrax. WildTrax follows FAIR and CARE principles, making the data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And this really is just that balance between keeping data open, but with also strong security to respect that data governance across different organizations and projects. WildTrax supports rich metadata from scales, local to international projects, and helps to streamline permissions, project tracking, and quality control of your environmental sensor data. Our actively maintained database helps to ensure permanence of the data, while the web platform keeps data timely and accessible for users. Nous avons aussi simplifié le contrôle d'accès et la gestion des droits pour savoir exactement qui peut consulter ou modifier les données. Les photos de site offrent maintenant des téléchargements à l'eau, les filtres avancés et recherche rapide. L'onglet des visites capte plus d'informations clés à propos des capteurs environnementaux et le nouveau onglet des déploiements centralise la gestion des équipements qui sont faits pour la surveillance. Et pendant que les animalisations optimisent la gestion et le suivi des données, nous avons aussi renforcé le traitement des enregistrements. So for some user interface aspects, we upgraded the front end of the site, and we're benefiting from not only its modular architecture and improved internationalization, but it also gives us an ability to create scalable, efficient user experiences that grows with the system's needs. Our new content management system also comes with built-in tools that makes translation and localization much easier to manage. And on top of that, we've re-engineered tables and views for faster loading and smoother interactions, all together really meaning that these upgrades mean better performance, a greater usability, and more responsiveness for everyone in the system. Specifically with some user updates, or from some sensor updates, I should say, we've streamlined the user assignment for now smoother access control, but the recording tab in the organization now offers over 40 new filters and task options to allow you to target reviews or narrow data sets down in seconds to create the projects that you're looking for. We've recently upgraded to BirdNet 2.0 and added a new multi-species classifier called Hawk Ears for more accurate and wide-ranging automated species detection, helping you to find more species faster. Un peu dans les détails des mises à jour acoustiques, nous avons intégré une superposition de l'IA à notre carte interactive. Vous voyez juste au-dessus du spectrogramme ici, affichant immédiatement les résultats de la classification. Les identifications des bruits et des dysfonctionnements sonores ont aussi été affinées pour plus de précision. Et donc, vous avez l'habilité de marquer le vent, la pluie et d'autres bruits que vous entendez dans les enregistrements aussi. L'accès aux photos et à la carte a aussi été simplifié, offrant une exploration et une validation des données plus rapides, fluides et intuitives. So just to go over this in English as well, a couple of the acoustic updates that you see here in the processing page include an AI overlay that's just above the spectrogram here so that you can actually see what the AI classification has live while you're doing your tagging. We have a new noise panel that allows you to have the ability to more efficiently add noise information about the recording, such as wind, rain, industrial noise, at different amplitudes and frequencies that are occurring in the recording. The map has also been created to be a little bit more efficient, so you can actually see the results directly in Data Discover from the processing point of view. And of course, location photos and thresholds are adjustable for the AI, as well as some other features within the processing interface. I should mention as well that with the acoustic functionalities that we have in the system, we still have some ultrasonic functionalities that will allow you to integrate data from ultrasonic calling species such as bats. And so ultrasonic wave and FLAC file upload and data storage, data synchronization that comes from classifier data such as Kaleidoscope or Sonobat is available in the system. We have a ability to store metadata that's associated with bat surveys as well. And the core piece of this is the dynamic spectrograms that can be customized at the project level so that you can see a range of frequency ranges that are actually specific to bats as well. Batch species verification also allows you to look at many different clips at a time. And we also support the discovery and sharing of these data similar to all other acoustic data in the system. We've also, on the camera side of things, recently upgraded to Megadetector version 6 for some higher accuracy, faster performance, and fewer false positives in image detection. The image uploader now also includes automatic exit checks and background metadata syncing, so we can help to keep records consistent without the extra work of ensuring that any corrupted data is actually making its way into the system. And these gains come alongside, again, synchronization improvements across the platform. Again, with some of the improvements that we've made, point count projects are also retrievable a lot faster within the system, and that the overall design and infrastructure of the point count data has not changed, but that the system has been made so that the point count and acoustic and camera sensors all have a very similar design now, so that your interactions and experience with the system are now smoother than ever. And of course, there's an R package for that. Similarly, in the R package WildTrax, you can get some faster download speeds, transforming how your large data sets are handled. We're expanding GET and POST API requests to allow users greater flexibility and custom workflows within the system. What this means is essentially, looking at the location tables in your organizations, you can have functions that allow you to simply get all of that information directly into the R without having to download the data and then import it into another piece of software. At the same time, we've reduced package dependency and increased code coverage to help to make the package lighter, faster, and more reliable. And again, these improvements ensure that WildTrax can meet today's needs while scaling for future growth. And with this, we're always continually developing the system. We want to ensure that, users have the best experience. And so things like dark mode are coming down the pipeline. We have some DOIs that are going to be available for projects. And folks who are doing unconventional things with environmental sensors can also take advantage of some newer upgrades that we'll be building into the system, so that if you just so happen to be using your acoustics to track wolves, or you're taking pictures of birds and kind of flipping the sensor usage around, the system will be, again, ability to help support that. Et donc, nous souhaitons exprimer notre plus profonde gratitude à nos partenaires et commanditaires dont le soutien rend WildTrax possible. Leur collaboration et ressources sont inestimables alors que nous poursuivons le développement et l'expansion de la plateforme. Of course, we can't do it and wish to express our deepest gratitude to our partners and sponsors, as well as the users who support and make WildTrax possible. Your collaboration and resources and feedback are invaluable as we continue to grow and strengthen the platform. And so as we kind of wrap up this presentation and look ahead, I always invite you to continue to see, hear, and know more about the natural worlds with the powerful tools that WildTrax has to offer, so that we can help to deepen understanding of biodiversity and make more informed conservation decisions. Et alors que nous concluons la présentation et en tournant vers l'avenir, je vous invite juste de continuer à voir, entendre et connaître le monde naturel grâce aux puissants outils que WildTrax offre. Et ensemble, nous pouvons approfondir notre compréhension de la biodiversité et prendre des décisions de conservation mieux éclairées. Et donc, merci pour vos attentions et on passera à une démonstration un peu de WildTrax. And so we're going to pass over to a little bit of a demo of the WildTrax interface now. So what we'll be doing today for kind of the rest of the time is we're just going to be taking a brief look through some of the major features of the WildTrax system. There's lots of stuff we could cover, but we only have an hour today. So I'm just going to be showing you some fundamental first things that you're going to be doing when you interact with the system, as well as some of the new features that I just mentioned today that you're probably really excited to see and hear about. First thing, of course, and if you're not familiar with the system, again, WildTrax is a role-based access platform. And so you can sign in with an email account, and then that email becomes you within the system so that you can have the respective roles and privileges that you need across the system. So for here, we're just going to go to WildTrax. We're going to log in with the button at the top. And I'm just going to log in with my account here. You'll see that you have two different options of login. One is a username and password login, which you can see down here, or logging in with a social media account with Google. So either or, how you choose to sign up is fine. When you do sign up, though, select the right sign up that you're going to be using. So if you don't have a Google authenticated account, you'll want to use the username and password that's down here. You'll have to just make sure that you also check the signing up and that you agree to the terms of service and privacy policy of the system, which will also send you a verification email to ensure that you can be verified before you start using the system. If you haven't verified your email, you'll just be prompted with a warning asking you to do that before you can start using WildTrax. But from here, I'm just going to sign in with our guest account today, and so that we can take a little bit of a stroll through the system together. So when I log in, I'm first greeted with the project dashboard here, and you'll see that there's some test and guest and demo accounts and projects that you guys can see when you first log into the system. So feel free to use those as necessary to kind of explore. But what I'm going to do first here is actually create an organization. And an organization is that unit that sits above projects that helps to centralize and manage all the environmental sensor data, but also the equipment, locations, and visits, which we'll see shortly, which allow you to bring all of the data from all of your projects together owned by that singular organization. So you can imagine an organization as a group of users who are coming together to answer questions, build projects, manage environmental sensor equipment and media. So from here, I'm just going to go up to the top ribbon. I'm going to click the organizations tab, and then you'll see here, again, I'm greeted with another dashboard, the organization dashboard. And we'll look here because we actually see a list of all the different organizations within WildTrax. But if I try to interact with any of these, not much is happening right now because I'm not a member of these organizations. So I don't have access to actually see any of these data. One thing I can do is just flip the toggle here to see which organizations I am a part of. And so you'll see those gray names have changed now to links, which I can click on and then jump into an organization. So if you're ever on the project or organization dashboard and you're trying to access a project or you're trying to access some data and you can't, it might be because you don't have the correct roles and privileges. And so you may, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but you may not have access to those data. But from the time being, what I'm going to do is actually create a new organization so I can have something to work with today with you guys. And so today we'll just call this a webinar, or we'll call it web test for a short organization acronym that kind of describes the organization as a whole. So you can imagine the ABMI will have ABMI as their organization acronym, and then Alberta Biodiversity Monitoring Institute as their organization full name. So here we'll call this webinar test. You can subsequently put some more information about the institution that you're using as well. But the rest of these fields here are what's most important when you get your organization set up. So we have 3 different storage locations that we offer right now for data storage. As I mentioned during our presentation, the new WildTrax data center that's based here out of the University of Alberta is our default storage option, which allows very responsive, but also much cheaper storage options compared to AWS or Amazon Web Services, Oregon and Montreal node options. And so these different options exist. If perhaps your data can't leave Canada, you might want to use the Montreal option. Conversely, if your data can't leave the United States, then Amazon Oregon option might be your best bet if that's what your organization restricts you to. So as I mentioned, the data center storage location is by default, and we also have these other default settings we can use at the organization level. The default location buffering will actually control whether or not the locations in the organization are going to be buffered. But you can do two different things here. You can either select true locations and not provide a buffer radius. And this would mean that any location that's added to your organization by default would show the true locations. However, we understand that some data can be sensitive, and perhaps the whole organization of data that you're collecting is sensitive, in which case you can provide a buffer radius to your true locations. What this allows you to do is actually upload and manage the true spatial coordinates of your locations in WildTrax, but then have the system buffer those locations for you. So members or users who aren't part of your organization, or that if the data is sensitive, would then see the buffered radius locations. Similarly, if you want, you can also add buffered locations directly into WildTrax so that the system itself wouldn't actually be managing any of your true spatial coordinates, but just the buffered locations that you've provided into the system. Again, with identifying the radius that you use, so folks have an idea that there is this location, but it's within a 2,000 meter or 2 kilometer buffer radius. For the time being, I'm just going to choose true locations, and I'm going to set this to nothing or 0. But there's a couple other things we can do as well to set our organization defaults. First thing has to do with location photos. So these are those physical photos that you're taking at a site to actually get some context around where you are. Am I in a deciduous forest? Am I by a road or a facility? These location photos are viewable by members of the organization by default. But again, you can choose to either privatize them, make them only project level access, or make these locations publicly viewable, or these location photos publicly viewable when the data is published. For the time being, I'm going to just click publicly viewable. Next option here is location reports. And again, this has to do with the sensitivity of locations that might exist in your organization. And so if by chance you are using buffered locations and you're defaulting buffer radius so that the users and the members aren't necessarily able to access or see the data, what location reports allow you to do is enable a way to connect those media and those data to someone who actually perhaps owns the land or stewards the land where these ARU or cameras are being placed. And so location of reports allow the accessibility of those data to those specific landowners without sharing them with users or members who might be members of the projects or organizations, but also to the public if the data is published. So for here, I'm going to enable my location reports because perhaps my data set has a singular location that's on private land. I won't be able to actually share the media with users publicly, but I want to be able to connect this to be able to give some of these data to my landowner, which is what these reports provide. Last default setting has to do with human blurring for the camera images that are uploaded into the organization. So from here, again, I have 3 different privacy options. I can blur the images with humans in them to anyone who is not an administrator of the organizations or projects. I can blur the human images for everyone. So even if you upload an image to a project, even administrators will not see the human data in here. They'll just get the blurred image. And conversely, blurring for non-members means that for any user that is not a part of the organization or project, they would get the blurred image, whereas those who are members would have the non-blurred image. For here, I'm just going to say blur for everyone for now. Now, I've got my organization all set up and created, double checking that these are all the settings that I wish to use. And then once I click save, this will actually go to a pending request for approval here. And so what this allows us to do is just make sure that the administrators of WildTrax are not seeing that multiple organizations are being, or multiple organizations for a single organization are being created, but also to control a little bit the ability for users to actually come in and create organizations that are going to be worthwhile, storing data, et cetera. So it's just a minor step. Once that organization is approved, then you would be able to see it here on the dashboard and be able to have access to that information. If you're ever having any issues with the organization approval or things are taking a little bit longer than expected, feel free to always reach out to our support team. and we would be happy to expedite that for you. But at this point here, I'm just going to refresh my page really quickly. I'm going to, again, check and view my organizations, and you'll see here that just this organization, again, hasn't been approved yet. So if I'm trying to access something in the system and you can't access it, it's probably because you don't have the approval or the privileges yet within the system. So don't panic if that's ever the case. You can always reach out to our team, or the people who might be administrating your organization or project haven't added you to it yet. So again, we'll just do this quick here. I'll push an approval really quickly, but what we'll do actually while we're waiting for that is just jump into our demo organization so you can see a little bit what it looks like once data is populated within an organization. Walking you through here really quickly at the different tabs that you can see at the top. We have locations, which are those physical geographic points that you're going to be visiting on the landscape. You can store all those locations here within the location table by either creating individual locations, providing a name, a latitude and longitude, the visibility, which you can also control at the individual location level. You don't have to necessarily default buffer all of your organization locations. If 99 out of 100 of them can be visible, but just that single one has to be hidden, you can do so here at the individual location level. So either making the location hidden or both the location and the data hidden. Again, location buffering is something you can control, and the buffer radius at that individual level as well. So just as an example here, I'm going to call this test web. I'm going to give it some spatial coordinates. And I'm going to make this visible, true location, and just save that information here so that then when I am looking for that information in the system, I will see it in my location table right here. The next tab within the organization is the location photos tab. So again, these are photographs that you've taken at a location at a specific geographic point. And this is really just to help to get habitat context behind some of the places that we're collecting data from. The real goal here is that in some of the processing interfaces, you can actually see these location photos. And so if I'm doing some acoustic tagging, for example, and I'm not quite sure if it's one species or another, but I have the context behind whether or not it's a deciduous or a conifer forest, I can then help to make those decisions in terms of the species that I'm detecting. The beauty about this that's really lovely as well is that you can actually batch upload location photos now from an individual location. And so for folks who are familiar with WildTrax 1.0, these were individual locations that could be added, but now the idea is that you can go in and upload and contain and choose a folder containing all of the images that were taken at a location, as long as that location folder name matches the location name here. So we'll go through that a little bit when we get to the camera upload side, but the concept is similar, where the folder name is going to control the name of the locations that are being uploaded into the system. And then the great part about this is that we actually have metadata for each one of these photos. So we can again control the axis type of the photo, the direction that the photo was taken, the vertical angle of the photo as well, and any comments related to this. You can then filter any of those metadata accordingly once you have lots of location photos in the system. So for example, you wanted to just see all the north photos that were available, you could filter accordingly and only see north. Again, the idea here is that you can also do all these things in batch. And so if I wanted to actually, I'm just going to reset here for a second. I can select multiple photos and then manage them accordingly. So if I had something to edit specifically for all 4 of these photos, I could do so as well. And again, this is like the idea of having all of that information in batch within the system so you can have it available to you. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to visits next. And visits is again another view, another table, but allows you to store information about somebody who has visited or gone to a location. So somebody's going to a location and maybe they wanted to mark that their access method was through a helicopter and that they used an acoustic bait to actually set up with their environmental sensors. Really, what this is fundamentally doing is helping to add a lot of important information about what is happening around and at that site when it is visited. So things like land features, snow depth, water depth, and specific metadata related to things like bat recorders, where we want to know the distance to water, the clutter percentage around the area, and the distance to clutter. All this information can be included within a singular visit. Again, I can create these visits individually, so adding the information from a location that I already have inputted into the system, and then provide a visit date, who visited the site, what kind of landscape features around the site, as well as lots of other information in the system here. And these are all things that we're working on developing more. So if you have something that's particular to your visit or something that you're interested or that you think is very valuable here, you can always contact our support team and we would be happy to look through and see if that would be something that we could add into the system. Now, I should mention again that, I've been talking about creating these things individually, but sometimes you've got hundreds of locations and sometimes hundreds of visits. And maybe you're trying to upload a whole inventory of equipment into the system. The great part about this is that both at the location, visits, equipment, and deployments level, we have what's called a synchronization functionality. And so clicking just below here in the dropdown for the organization, you'll see a bunch of different options here relating to these different organization properties. So if I click on locations, you'll see download. And what this is going to do is download me a CSV of everything I'm seeing in the location table, where I can make adjustments in batch if I have to, change names, change coordinates, change visibility type of these locations. And then as I've made those changes in my CSV, I can then re-upload them to the system and it'll batch change lots of different things at once. So again, the idea is you can do individual creation of these things, or you can do batch creation and export. So at the location level, visits level, equipment level, and deployments level. Okay, moving on, we have one more tab here, the equipment tab. Again, this is an inventory tab, so it actually tracks all of the equipment that you have that belongs to your organization. The great part about this is that you can then associate this equipment to the next tab, the deployments tab. So that actually is, so if you are seeing any issues or degradation or damage to any of your equipment that it's happening in the field, you can then record it here. So that, for example, if I had to change the status of this recorder, from active to loaned out, I would know that I've actually, loaned this unit out. And if it's not in my inventory, this is something that I can keep track of within here in the system. So really great tool. So you can store all your environmental sensor information, and not even just your environmental sensors, but all the additional equipment such as microphones that you might be attaching to them as well. Now, getting to the deployments tab. So we have locations, places that are in space. We have visits, that's a person going to that place. And then we have equipment, so the stuff that we're using. Really, the deployments tab is where all that comes together so that you can say at this place, this location, using this equipment type, on this visit date, this is the actual deployment of my environmental sensor data that's collecting the information. So once again, individual deployments can be made where you're selecting the location, the equipment that you used, and the deployment visit date that that it occurred on, and any other ancillary information that's important about this deployment. When you went to pick it up, when you went to deploy it, the condition of the equipment that you attached it to. Was it a tree? Was it a post? Was it a tripod? These are great pieces of information. So if somebody is actually going back to go get the environmental sensor and they know they have to bring a screwdriver to take it off the tree, they've got that information here in the system for them. Again, lots of different additional information that you can go look through here. I won't explain everything for time today, but that you can also attach, again, those additional equipment such as microphone SD cards that you can also store in inventory in WildTrax. So we've got our places, we've got our people going to places, we've got our equipment, and we've got our equipment that's gone and collected all this great data. Now it's time to bring all this data home, all the images, all the audio files that we've collected. Where do they go? How do they actually make it into the system? Starting with acoustics, there's actually two different ways you can do this, but what we'll do is start at the organization level, and then we'll move over to the project level for the acoustic data, and then we'll talk about camera data after that. But the first thing I'm going to do is just go over and again check in on my organization. Has my organization been approved yet? I'm not sure. I'm going to go have and look into here. And of course, now my organization has been approved. Somebody administratively was able to look through and say, yes, this person webinar test is in fact a true organization. This is not a robot creating these orgs in the system. So now I can actually go in and start to utilize this. One thing I'll mention as well is that the users of the organization that did create them are automatically attributed administrator status, which means you can read and write to anything in the organization as well as any of the projects that the organization creates. And so you're automatically assigned that administrator role. And the other thing you can't do within the system is unassign yourself from organizations or projects, just to prevent accidental unassignment, so that if you are the only administrator of this organization and you unassign yourself, then you wouldn't be able to have access to it anymore. So just a way to protect. But if you are looking for any other users in the system, you can simply type them in here and the system will search and look for some of those users. And so if I wanted to add Alex MacPhail as a user to this organization, I could do so and then assign them the role that they need. So either read access, so read, I can see everything, but I can't edit, or administrator access. So I can change anything in the system, both at the organization and project level. The other thing I'll point out too is that you have the ability to delete the organization, but keep in mind that if there's any information in the organization, such as locations or deployments or recordings, you'll need to delete all these things subsequently before you can actually get to the organization side of things. But what I'm going to do is actually jump into the recordings tab now because we want to upload data into the system. And so here you'll see that it's saying you don't have any projects available. Well, that makes sense. I just created my organization, so I didn't actually create a project yet. But I do need a project in order to be able to generate tasks into them, which you'll see in a moment. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm just going to upload a few recordings. And so here, the upload button in the recordings tab clicks, and here you're prompted with a whole bunch of series of questions and information about what you're wanting to do while you upload these recordings. In this case, these auto check boxes here include subfolders and do things like remove leading zeros and your location names if you want, but you can simply uncheck these if they are not applied to you. Similarly, if you have recordings that have been triggered, such as bat recordings versus those who are on a schedule, like your typical ARU recordings, you would mark these uploaded as triggered accordingly as well. But here I'm just going to open up my folder that I have here on my local computer so that you can sort of see what the structure you might be encountering looks like. And I have two different sensors worth of data here, both ARU and camera, but you'll see that the structures are a little bit different from one another. So here in the ARU data, I've just created this location name called hello123. And this is the folder that's actually containing all of my audio files for the ARU data. So here, if I just uncollapse this, you'll see, 3 audio files here. But note that the name of the location, hello123, is actually on the audio files. And this is what's really important because when audio files are uploaded into the system, a location is going to be created based on this audio file name. Okay, so when you're uploading the data, you have to make sure that these recordings contain the name because this is what's going to be the name of the location in your organization. You can always change it later. Names can be changed, but if you're uploading to the system and you have a folder name that's not matching with the audio file names, remember with the audio, it has all to do with the file name. The other thing you're going to note here too is the naming convention. And so we support some different dates and time formats that can be uploaded into the system. But what's really critically important about audio data is that it has a location prefix, so the where it was, and the temporal data, or the date and time, the when it was. And so this is really critical information that all the sensor data in WildTrax needs. And so if you try uploading an audio file without a location name or without a date time, you'll be prompted with an error. But for the time being, I'm just going to click on my folder here to upload. It's going to scan those 3 files. It's going to tell me I've loaded them into the system, which is great. I'm going to then push it over to make sure that I've got everything confirmed that I need here. Everything does look good. You'll note that the sample rate and file size are not actually marked here because it's an optional thing to do in your configuration when you upload. It takes a little bit longer for the system to read those sample rates and file sizes, but if it's important for your upload, you can include them here too. Not including them will just make things run a little bit quicker here. After I've done that, I can click and begin the upload into my system. There'll be a progress bar that you can follow along with to show how things are going, uploading into the system. And so here I've got a couple of recordings that I've already uploaded. And we'll just let that last bigger one get into the system as well. Just give that another moment to head in there. Thanks for your patience, folks. I think we're just getting a little bit more internet juice from the Zoom than we expected. All the files are uploaded now, so we're good to go. The other thing you can do is if you did encounter any errors with upload, you can always download the log here and it'll tell you some more information about how long it took for upload and where the errors might have occurred. But now that I have those recordings into the system, you'll see here that they will take a little bit of time for it to generate inside of this table, about an hour or so. But luckily, what we can do is sort of start the process, at least, of getting recordings into the system. And then once you'll see these recordings populated into this table, you'll be able to do some cooler things, like select from these recordings to create projects. I'm just going to jump over here quickly back to our demo organization that we were working with before. But you'll see here what I've done is this new fancy feature that we have that allows you to jump to any organization or project within the system. You can just hit Control/. And then here what I can do is then jump onto the dashboard for anything that I'm interested in looking for. The other thing you can do, again, of course, is just go back to the projects page. But because we don't have any projects in our organization yet, let's make a couple. We'll make both an ARU and a camera project right now. So we'll call this Web Test ARU. And then I have to select the organization that I wanted this project to be a part of. So make sure you're selecting the correct organization. And then again, you can add a whole bunch of information about the due date, the data source, the purpose and methods, the result summary, anything you want to add for additional information so that if users are going to be accessing this data, or if you want to make your data published one day, you'll have, again, more information for the users. We also have our acoustic project options, or default options here, where we can actually set the default spectrogram parameters, the X scale, the Y scale. We can actually default the colors of the spectrogram as well if you're interested. And also default a couple of other things like the AI overlay that I mentioned during the presentation. So here we'll just default monochrome. Let's save this because this is kind of all I have to do here as far as the ARU side of things is concerned. The next step is I can also assign species into my project. And there's a couple of different ways you can assign species, either searching and including them individually in the project, either by common or scientific name, whichever you wish to search by. But we also have presets that are available. So if you're interested, you can go in and select from a whole bunch of different preset data within the system. So for example, we have curated list, the birds of Alberta here, which I can select for, and then use those presets. And then all of those birds of Alberta are then included in this project automatically. So really quick way of getting species into the project that you're looking for. It could be one species, it could be many species, it could be all species. Depends what you're interested in, what your questions are you're looking to answer. Finally, I'll want to be adding users into this project as well, so that they can do either tagging or they can administrate the project, or perhaps they're a collaborator and they only want to read the data. Which case here, we'll do this once more, where I can add, again, Alex into the system, add my user. And again, you'll see that the user privileges have 3 different roles. So administrator, again, read and write privileges to everything in the project. A tagger will have read and write privileges to the tasks they're assigned or the verification they're assigned within the project. And then read only essentially is, again, read only. I can see everything, but I can't edit anything in the system. So over here, I'll just assign myself a tagger role. And now my project is all set up. So I'm ready to go. I can start processing and annotating data here. Before I do that, though, I'm just going to show you really quickly a camera project setup as well. So on my dashboard, again, you'll see these 3 tabs. I have ARU, I have camera, I have point count. So I can click a camera tab and similarly create a project, but you'll see settings a little bit different, right? Because we're dealing with a different type of data. But we'll do this as web test cam. We'll put this in the same organization. And then what we can do here is choose which individual level and image level tag options I'm interested in tagging for this project. So you can think of individual level tags options as the things inside of the images, the animals. Am I going to be counting them? Am I going to be aging them? Am I going to be sexing them? Am I looking for certain behavior? Any of these can be stacked on top of one another so that you can actually select from multiple different individual and image level tags, depending, again, what on you're interested. So is everybody doing behavior in a camera project? Not necessarily. Again, image level tag options. This is so if I'm interested in looking for really nice images, or if there's images that are in the field of view or out of the field of view that I need to tag, or perhaps, there is instances of fire that are being captured on these recordings. Lots of image level tag options, lots that can also be available. So if you're looking for something, let us know what you need and we can try to see if we can accommodate that in some of the project options. Again, the images that go through the system all get automatically pre-processed with Megadetector, but if you don't want to see some of those default images, you can hide the vehicles by default. You can hide the humans by default if you want. Again, these are just those project level default settings that you're interested in using. Series gap will also refer to the default time in images between that defines an independent detection event. And so you can set that series gap to whatever time interval you're looking for. Kind of standard series gap that we use internally here is about 120 seconds. And you can also default to show the time-lapse images if you're interested in this as well, if your camera has been set to record time-lapse. So again, all these kind of, global project settings that I use to get things set up. And the next 2 steps, same thing as the ARU steps. I'm going to pick species and I'm going to add users. So nothing different there. But in this case, you'll see that with the camera side of things, because Megadetector is going to be going to auto-classify these images automatically, you'll have staff setup, vehicle, human, and none in the system by default. And when you do have tags for a project, whether it be ARU or camera, and they're in the project and there are tags for those species, they're going to be locked automatically as well. And this is to prevent you from removing the species from the project if there's already tags that exist. Okay, so I've got a few, let's just add pica in there for fun. Again, next thing I can do is assign my users. I'm just going to skip that step for the time being because we've already seen that, but now I've got my camera project. So within an organization, I can have ARU projects, camera projects, just make sure that they are associated to that organization. Let's jump over to camera really quick because what we'll do is a camera upload. We kind of already did the ARU acoustic upload from the organization side, but on the camera side of things, it's just at the project level. Now, there's a lot of different options you can use as well to upload camera data because of maybe the structure or the folder hierarchies that you're using. But again, what's really critical, and I'll show you this in one moment, is that the folder name that contains all the images below it has to have that location name. So just like the media on the acoustic side had to have the location name in the audio files, on the camera side, what's really crucial is that the location name is in the folder that you're uploading, because that's what's going to give the location name in the system. but you can do this at different levels. So what else? I'll show you what that means in a moment here. So if I click single location and I choose a folder, I'm going to go back over into my webinar folder here. And in the camera folder, I have another folder called Hello123. This is that named location folder. But sometimes cameras have overflow folders. In this case, this Reconyx type camera will actually create a subfolder for each set of 9,999 images that it collects, and it'll create a new subfolder, and then it'll create a new subfolder. But fundamentally, the folder that you're wanting to upload here is this one, this location folder, the name of the place. So if I select single location and then that folder, and I click upload, it's going to give me a prompt that'll tell me that location name. And this is kind of a good test to make sure that, yes, okay, I did in fact click the right button, upload. This is the location and this is the name that I want. All those subfolders that I mentioned before, the Reconyx and stuff, then I'll get collapsed and they all become part of one image set within the system like this. So here, again, latitude and longitude, I can enter that information and then upload my data. I'm just going to take a step back a little bit and show you what it looks like if I'm doing it at multiple location levels though. So if I click this multiple locations, what I'm essentially saying is I want to go one folder above my location folder and upload a whole bunch of locations. And so this is what the purpose of this serves. So I'll show you a couple examples, but if I click on this and I say multiple locations, one level, and I still choose that same location folder I chose before, and I try uploading, it's going to tell me this because it thinks that I'm going one level lower now into that subfolder, which I'm not. So this would be kind of an incorrect way of uploading this data. What I would do instead in this case is choose that one level, but go for the folder above it. So this camera folder here. And if I then choose that, now I've got my location in there. So again, if you have multiple locations and you want to choose the folder above it to upload all of them, choose the multiple level option, which has one level or two levels. Again, I'll add a little bit of information in here just to see a little bit of this. And I'm realizing we're a little bit short for time, so we'll go a little quickly here. But we'll get these images uploaded into the system. Should be pretty quick. And you'll see again here, kind of your confirmation. Yes, this is the location name. Yes, this is the subfolder that I'm getting. Awesome. So now we've got our images in our project. They're through the processing phase, and now Megadetector is essentially going to go through and do its magic. It's going to classify these images into human, animal, vehicle, or none, or a false fire, and then provide those information in tagging boxes that you'll see within the interface here. So again, these are kind of the images that I've just uploaded. A couple quick kind of musings around the camera interface here. You'll see we've got our filter panel, which allows you to filter the trigger mode, for example, images that you have. Once I get species and sex and age and count, I can filter by any of those properties that are contained within this image set here so that you can further refine kind of what you're looking for and how you want to do your tagging within the system. So lots of flexibility there. Again, the series tagging is another option. And in this case, I don't have any series with these images, but if I was to apply, again, different filters for this, I could then see some series tagging happening with the images in this image set. What I'm going to do just really quickly to kind of wrap up some time, because I want to show you a little bit of some acoustic data as well before we kind of bump over to some questions. Here's just a demo project of some acoustic data that we have in the system. You'll see these are all the different tasks that I've uploaded into these projects for processing. And the next step here is actually going in and processing some of this data. So you'll see here, I can click on this recording and I've got the spectrogram that's available so I can see all of the signals that I'm interested in for these recordings. The AI also becomes available above the spectrogram. And if you have locations for your data, you would then get weather data as well for these recordings. Fundamentally, what's happening here is, and then again, drawing boxes around these recordings, selecting tags or duplicating tags for the detections that I'm hearing in these data as well. So just a little quick kind of run through of the acoustic side of things as well here. To just kind of finalize really quickly, what you ultimately will be wanting to do in the system at some point is possibly publishing your data. And so if I just kind of uncheck this box here, you'll see all this great set of public data that's already available in WildTrax. So you don't even have to be a user of these projects. These projects are public. You can use them and look through them and see what's available for you. But as you kind of complete your projects, the ultimate goal is to publish them, to make them available to other users potentially. And so you would do that here by going to your user settings in the project, and there's a status button which then allows you to change the publication status of these data. So whether they're private, public, map plus report, or map only, lots of different settings you can choose from here as well. Ultimately, once these data do become publicly accessible, you can then download reports, request access to the projects of the data if you're interested in them as well. And you can also navigate through Data Discover and see all the really cool public data that's available for the different sensors. This really allows you to go in, select a series of locations, and then see more information about them. So really kind of a high level overview of some of the features within the system as well. And you can expect that a lot of this is going to be updated and upgraded and enhanced over the next little while so that our user guide and resources are going to be available to match the system. And you can expect that we'll be able to be supportive of all the different new parts of the system that users might not be familiar with. So feel free at any time to go to support or info@wildtrax.ca, and our team would be more than happy to help out here. I guess we're running a little bit over time right now, but I'm happy to stick around and spend the last 10 minutes or so to answer any questions that folks might have. But thanks again for your time. Really appreciate you sticking around to seeing some of the stuff we're working on with WildTrax. I guess I'll give it over to you, Victoria.
And thank you so much, Alex.